The Consortium is a fantasy skirmish game by what I assume is a married couple. Your World, Your Minis, Our Rules. It's by Brandy Santiago and Julio Santiago. And I have this bookmarked here so we can go straight to it. Today we're going to be playing 5 Magics, which is a mission given to us by the Arcanum Ministorum. The overall conceit of the game is that you are trying to explore and settle a wild continent, and to do so, in order to keep things like under control, there's a thing called the Consortium, maybe kind of a fantasy East India trading company, if you will, and it's got 4 departments, and each of those departments has 10 scenarios or missions or spheres of influence, and we've chosen the magic one because our boss man, we went through the whole development of the party last time, is this Boom Boom Wizard here. And his name is Dexlin Soprazzoli. Oh, yeah, Soprazzoli. That's pretty good. There you go. So we got ourselves a little fire mage who's not going to be in focus right now, because we need to talk about the monsters. And what you do here is you got to build monsters the same way you built the party, which is a pretty heavy lift. I gotta be honest with you. Like, my first major complaint about this game, I need a bestiary. I don't have time to sit down and come up with all this stuff. You gotta go through the whole process. Now, it's not quite as complicated because there's not as much going on, but remember, there's like effectively 20 different stats, if you will. 15 to 18 of which you don't really care about. You really kind of drill down and dial into what those monsters do. But before we get to that, you got to talk about the fact that in the case of standard monsters, you have a percentage of your build point. And this is where you really have to know how many build points your party is worth. In my case, I got 48 build points. Now it seems a little weird. I only had 30 build points to start with for the characters themselves, but I bought 18 build points worth of equipment. So when I figure out the enemies that I'm going up against, I got to use this total of 48%. The basic monsters, because I'm playing on easy, right? So that cool Hydra here, right? Cool vampire bat looking thing, love it. 15% of the base build point with a 5 build point minimum, right? Everything that you buy in this game starts off with 5 build points. It gives you 2 action dice, and it gives you 3 build points worth of special abilities, and then you can start spending more on top of that. But of course, for mine, because 15% of 48 is going to be 7 build points. For the core monsters, I got 7 build points. And then, if you look at the boss monsters, those are, well, wait a minute. It says here to determine, roll D10 for every PBP. So I guess maybe I should, if my hero's party is worth 48, I should roll 5 D10, and that would tell me how many BP. That's not quite accurate, though, because we're doing a monster layer scenario. So there's, again, it's a really complicated game. You got to go through the whole thing and really dial in, because there's lots of exceptions and do this, not that kind of thing. So we have a Ministry of Founding, right? And these guys are thinking of the people of the Consortium as a family. They're all about like rescue missions and escort missions, right? And then you've got the Pursuants, and these are like the royalty who are trying to get better. And then of course we chose the Arcanum Ministorum. This is a brief description of what is going on in the mission. This first page, you roll a D10, and it tells you like the name and just the brief mission. And then, of course, there are and then you have to go to the next section. This is why I was getting confused, because the information about the monsters is actually here, where we get into the real brass tacks. 5 magics you deploy from the south edge of the board. There are 5 monster layers set up at least 10 inches away. And we're going to see this here in a minute, because I'm going to at least start to play this game. This may be a 2-parter because there's a lot of setup involved. There are 5 monster layers, right? And then one of these is a boss's den. So we're going to have to put some markers down, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then one of those we marked as the boss's den. Each of the 4 that's not the boss is going to have 2 monsters. That's each monster layer. And that's worth 25% of your base build point. So in my case, that would be 12 build points. But wait a minute. 15% is 7, so if I have 2, that means I'm going to be running 14 build points for each of the easy monster layers. And just to give you some idea of what we're going to go with on those, we're going, longtime viewers will know how terrifying this is for me. We're going full owlbear. Look at that guy. he's going to get you. I got 4 of those guys. I believe these come from Splintered Light. So the owl bears, each of those monster layers is going to have 2 owl bears in it. 14 points. A little OP compared to my, and I'm doing easy. Make it simple, right? Now with 7 build points, the stats are pretty simple. All I did is I bought, and here just to show you how I did this, I said, okay, I got the owl bears. And spoiler alert, I've got a boss monster who's going to be worth 24 build points, and then the wandering monster is worth 36, right? So then that's the 25, 50, and 75, okay? So my owl bears, I did the whole matrix, right, with the distance that they can attack and the range, and all, but the only thing that really matters here is they've got rending. So targets lose 1 defensive die. When they attack you, normally, like if you've got heavy armor, which our dwarf Dimly has, he's got the tanky armor. He's going to roll like 4 dice, I want to say. Well, let's not just imagine. Let's go ahead and check the record here. Dimly is going to be rolling plus 3 defensive dice because of the heavy armor, but because of the rending, he's only going to roll 2 defensive dice, okay? And this could be a total party wipe, which, would be interesting. That would be something. We would learn from that experience. Wouldn't be embarrassing at all. Now, I also added large as a template to the owl bears, which means they have 3 action dice. They move. They got plus 2 to their bonus. They got -1 to stealth. They're not going to be sneaking. And then it's +1 when you try to hit them. So when you try to hit, you roll a d10, and you get a +1 to your roll because they're large. It's easy to hit things that are big. Then for the boss, I've got this Displacer Beast. Now, Displacer Beasts, Wizards of the Coast will tell you that they own the IP for this, but this appeared in a book. It was the TSR, Gary Gygax, stole this from, and I can't remember which Appendix N novel it is, but it's lifted directly from that. And I don't care. So, it's a Displacer Beast. This does come from Splintered Light. You get 2 of these in a pack, and man, it's just a great little panther with the, now notice he's got those 2 tentacles there. So what I did for the Displacer Beast is I said, all right, he's going to be fast. Max move plus 2 inches. He's sure-footed, so rocky terrain, he gets a bonus. He gets plus 2 to his movement. He's sure-footed. He ignores difficult terrain. He's got 3 action dice. He's evasive, so he's got plus 2 evade dice. Now, remember, evade dice is when you're being shot at, right? Because we all know how Displacer Beasts work. He's got thrust and lunge, which means he can make melee attacks out to 3 inches. Tentacles, he's also aggressive, so he gets a 5-inch free move when he charges. Normally, when you charge, you roll the die, and if you make it, then you get bonus dice and whatnot. We'll see that later. This guy gets plus 5 inches to that. So if he gets anywhere near you, he's going to jump right on top of you. And then I was like, well, I don't know, Wandering Monster? What is this? So I pulled out the old Manticore, and it says, there you go. This is actually, I think he comes from the 10 millimeter line. He's a little short for a Manticore. We'll compare him to our wizard boy. See, a little short. Manticores should be, probably more like that tall to make him terrifying. Pretty ugly mug. He comes from Pendraken, just so as you know, and he's worth 36 build points, which means he's going to have a whole lot. Now, this turns the monsters from a stat heavy. Look at all these stats, right? 5 across, 5 down, plus all these down here. Your figures have a whole lot of stats to have to remember. Your monsters are more keyword driven. So the keywords here are, the Manticores can fling darts from their tails. So he's got a war bow. That's what we class that as. 20-inch range, +1 attack die, +1 damage. Quick load, so he can just keep throwing those every round. It reloads as a free action. I didn't know how to do natural weapons, right? Same thing with the Displacer Beast and the Owlbears. I didn't buy any weapons for them. They're natural monsters, right? So they're living out in the wild. So I'm not quite sure how the build points work for those. So I'm just going to ignore it for now. We'll see how that works. And, there's a good chance, Julio and Brandy might stop in the comment section for us, which would be nice. At any rate, he's also got Wilder Charge. So when he charges, he gets +2 attack dice. He gets a 5-inch free move because he's faster, and that costs 8 points, right? Faster gives you like a +2-inch move, and then faster gives you an additional 3. So for 8 build points, you get a 5-inch free move. Crazy quick. He's ironclad, so he can reroll all of his defensive dice. Now he has to reroll all of them, and then he's scary. So if you want to charge to contact him, you have to make that courage roll. It's a D10. You get a +1 to that roll because he's not too scary. All right, you can power these up if you buy additional. That was 5 points. For 3 points, you have to make a courage roll with a +3, which is not too hard. I think 7 is what your target is. I'll double check that before we actually start the game proper. But then if you buy it a second time, then you get the +1. If you buy it a third time, it's going to cost you like another 5 points now, and then it's going to be a neutral, and so on and so forth. So you can actually get, if you spend enough points, you can have some really expensive guys that only have one keyword. Because if I buy Scary 5 times, Scariest, then in order to move into contact with him, if it's, like a giant monster, if you're talking about trying to charge like a giant, maybe you have to make that courage roll at a -3. And that could be, I don't know, I don't have the rule book in front of me. Wait a minute. What's this? Why am I just speculating? Why don't I just go ahead and turn to defensive? Here you go. Menacing, scary, frightful, terrifying. Damn, you scary. For 25 build points. Remember, you have to buy all of these. So it's not 25 build points. It's 35, 42, 50 points. For 50 build points, opponents must make a courage roll. They may only charge you if they roll a 10 or better. All right, well, how would they get a 10 or better? Well, you can get power-ups that make you brave that give you a bonus to that roll. Okay, so maybe I got a +3 to my courage roll. In fact, let's see if any of our guys have that. Courage, +1. Yeah, Dexlin has a +1. Of course, he's not a melee boy, so we're not going to take advantage of that. Is he the only one? Yeah, he's the only one with the courage roll, so he could charge you on a 9 or better. Anyway, that's it. So now we need to take a look at the terrain and how all of this is going to work. And man, we're already like 8 minutes into this video. I don't know if we're going to get to the game today. Complicated. A lot going on here. I got to tell you, if you're spending, I don't know how much this is. You probably get it at the website that we don't like to mention, Wargames Vault. A lot of replayability. I think this would be a great game. This would be a great supplement. It's an RPG light. I think if you had 4 or 5 friends over and they each run one hero at like 50 build points, and you as the DM want to throw like a couple 100 build points worth of monsters on the table, there's a lot of replayability here, guys. I think you can spend a lifetime exploring all the different ways these rules interact. But because I haven't ever played it before, today's going to be very much a fumble through. And I wonder if one other thing that might be of value here is just like a really simple, hey, here's the first time you play this game. I'm getting kind of, I guess this is turning into a bit of a review. I'm getting a bit of a Too Fat Lardies vibe from this game. I really wish that I had gone to Historicon this year. Some of you lucky stiffs did, and you saw Brandy and Julio running this game. I saw pictures of Julio, at least. I don't know if Brandy was there. And I actually saw pictures online. HMGS was throwing pictures, ruins on the table, nice little grassy mat like this. I feel like this is the kind of game that you really, it's well suited to a convention environment. And if you have a knowledgeable pro showing you how to play the game, it's just going to be just like such a better experience. And I guess what I'm really looking to do here is just warn you that as I do this fumble through, I might not be showcasing the game in all its full glory. And so just understand that I am but a humble video merchant, and there's a lot going on in this game, particularly when it comes to the activation. So maybe if you squint your eyes just right and you imagine the possibilities, you'll still be intrigued enough to pick up a copy of this game. I hope so anyway. I hope so, because I really appreciate them sending me this. And I've had a good time kind of wrapping my brain around it. It's been a real challenge. It's not your standard game. And we like challenges here. We like difficult games. We like having to unravel that stuff. Even if we don't like Too Fat Lardies. That's the irony here. Of course, my beef with the Too Fat Lardies has a lot more to do with their business practices and with the fact that their rule books are largely written as more reference materials. Like trying to learn a game from the Lardies writing is just like, ugh, why would you bother? But we're not here to talk about Too Fat Lardies. We're here to talk about Consortium, and now we need to talk about terrain. The Consortium, or Consortium, calls for a table 36 by 36 inches. Instead of playing at half scale, I'm going to go ahead and just use the 24 by 24 that I got. It's actually 24 by 30. In this particular mission, we have to go search each one of these 5 monster lairs. There's one more, I don't know if you can see it, lurking right back there in the ruins. Ruin City, trying to find traces of magic. So we're going to send our guys in. They're going to search. That's going to trigger the monster's appearance, as we already talked about. If you're not engaged, if you're not in combat, you can search. It's an interact roll. You need a 10 or better to succeed. If you succeed, congratulations, you found the magic. I think at that point, then we get off the table, hopefully intact. Now, every turn, there's a 1 in 10 chance that wandering monster comes on and attacks the nearest figure, which is good, because I think these owlbears are going to eat us for lunch.
Be that as it may, for terrain, everything that you see on the table, these rocky areas are classed as rocky. Remember, one of our enemies is immune to rocky areas. He doesn't care. The rocks will slow you down, and let's call it a cover 1, movement 2. So when you roll your movement die, subtract 2. Oh, look, I got a 9. So that means you can move 7 inches if you're moving through this. The grasslands do not slow movement, but they are cover 2. So cover 2, cover 1, movement 2, unless you're immune to rock. And then we'll say the water and all of the rocks are and the walls are impassable. We'll call this cover 3. After all, it is a ruin. If you're trying to shoot in there, that's going to be really hard to hit anything. But we'll only call it a movement delay by 1. Similarly, the statues over here that are fallen, we're just going to say that it costs 3 inches to move over those if you try to. I think I need to throw some trees. We're going to call the forests cover 2 when you're in there. So I'll throw some trees on these 2 patches, but these are not forests. They're just rocky areas that slow down movement.
I am deploying my guys
with right on the southern table edge. The rules as written say you should deploy within 1 move, max move. So remember, in the case of our dwarf, his maximum move is only like 6 inches. Our unarmored wizard, he can move up to 10 inches. So he could normally deploy 10 inches from the table edge. Because I'm only dealing with a 24-inch table, I'm just going to start him right on. And maybe it's an inch away. It's fine. Look, it'll be okay. Because we need to talk about these chits. Each of the ruins that you see with a chit in it is a monster lair, 2 inches in diameter, give or take. If you approach within 5 inches of the edge of that 2 inches, in other words, if we get within 7 inches of the chit, it triggers the monsters. Now, on a 1 through 4, the underside of each of these, we'll drop 2 owlbears on the table. On a 5, it's the boss lair. We're going to drop the displacer beast. At the end of every turn, we roll a d10, and if we get a 0, the manticore is going to appear. And manticores sound a lot like roosters, so if you hear a rooster in the background, it's because I'm trying to add production value to my videos. That's the story. And I'm sticking with it. So let's read the beginning of the scenario as designed by good old Julio and Brandy. As you deploy from the south edge of the board before the beginning of the first turn, the air begins to feel different, almost as though the earth itself has long abandoned knowledge it wishes to show you. Every breeze carries with it a whisper, guiding you between rooted stones with eroded runes carved into them. You must search this place for any resonating magic and report back with your findings. So it's not really a loot and scoot. It's just more of a, hey, we're going to go, maybe we do some like chalk, some like crayon rubbings of the runes in here, trying to find some magic. Maybe we find some magic rocks. That's the whole point of the exercise. So the way the initiative system works in this game is with chits. I'm going to throw these in a cup. Bear in mind, I haven't triggered any of the monsters yet. So there's no point in this exercise. And the Consortium, Julio and Brandy, man, they're pretty smart cookies. They get a thing called fast travel. They're like, look, at this point, if it's just you on the table, don't worry about it. Just get to the point where you set up your situation, figure it out, and then trigger the monsters and roll with it. But I'm not going to do that here. When we get to turn 2 and the monsters are on the table, I'll add another chit for each of the monsters. I'll probably use a red one for the boss monster when he appears and a blue one for the wandering monster, just to keep it simple. Now, so again, just to give you an idea of what to expect, if all 5 of these, if I got the 2 owlbears down, then I'll just pull them out one at a time. And it's not entirely clear to me whether I could just act 3 times with my dwarf. It just says, activate one of your figures. Could I use all 3 on the dwarf? If I've already activated and I don't think so, because you only get so many action dice per turn. Remember, each of my boys only gets 2. If I use both of them to move, then I'm done with my turn, right? So I think that's the key is, even if I wanted to use my dwarf, I've already burned through his action dice, so it's not going to be practical. So for now, what we're going to do is just take a look at how movement works. And essentially, I'll use 1 action dice for each of my guys, and I'm going to use my dwarf first. Recall that because my dwarf is wearing such heavy armor, and part of this is for my sake, if you're trying to teach yourself a new game, don't do the fast travel. Work through the movement first, get a firm grasp on it so when combat starts, you already know how movement works. Dimly the dwarf is going to advance, and his maximum move is, it's minus 4 inches. And he's short? Why do I have an 8 there? It's actually 6. So he's got a minus 4 penalty because he's wearing the heavy armor. So we roll and we get an 8. And one of his traits is endurance, which gives him a +2 to his max move. So using that action die, he can move a total of 8 inches. And I think I'm going to go ahead and move all 8. He's going to race up here, trigger the monsters, and 2 owlbears are going to jump on top. Or am I? Reading through the section on monster spawning, as soon as you close to within 5 inches of the ruins, the owlbears appear and we dump their tokens into the mix. So now I need to get myself a little cup. I'm going to put these in and for the rest of the turn. Now he's only used 1 die at this point, okay? So I think, it's not entirely clear from the rules, but I think the idea here is that they've now appeared and it's up to me. What am I going to do? And with my second action, I could hold that action. I know they're coming at me. So if I save that action die, I can use that for one of my abilities later on. I can use it to increase my defenses by adding a die to my defensive value. And that might be the way to go because we could send Mr. Elf around back to actually do the investigation. Or maybe we send Mr. Wizard around. This then raises the question of whether or not Dimly has to move the full 8 inches. Changing conditions, owlbears have arrived. We're going to stop him right there. That could be wrong. Maybe you're more familiar with the game than I am. Maybe you've played a few games. Put you a couple of games up on me. So let me know down in the comments if that's not really right. I've declared he's running forward. He's got to run forward. This is how we're going to do it. For now, this is how we're going to do it, just to keep it simple. I have put the 4 remaining chips, 2 green, 2 yellow, into one of my wife's little cooking bowls, and she won't be mad at me because she is a very cool wife. And then I grab one at random, and I draw yellow, which means one of the owlbears gets to activate. Now, the owlbear has a maximum movement of, let me check my stats, trait-based, of course. His maximum movement is 12 inches. Because he has rending, because he's large. So I think that means he gets a +2 to his movement roll, and that's going to be his first action. So we'll nominate this guy first, the guy standing up, Mr. Tall. We roll a 3, which gives him 5 inches of movement, and he's going to move the 5 inches into melee combat with Dimly. Now with 2 action dice, that means he's going to make his first attack. With 1 inch of reach, the owlbear can stop 1 inch away from Dimly and use his last 2 actions to attack. So I'll roll 2 dice. He hits on 7s, and he gets a pair of 1s, which always miss. So I draw a second activation, and look at that. It's going to be on Team Good Guy. So our elf now gets to activate, and I want to keep him behind Dimly, but I want to shoot at that guy. So in order to do that, because Dimly is, if I drop a straight line, what do you guys think? Can I shoot past him like that? We'll give this owlbear the benefit of cover too, but I'm going to use both my action dice to fire 2 arrows, and our elf is Grass Toucher is the name. He's got a 10-inch range. We're definitely within that. He's got the 2 attack dice. He's a sharpshooter, so he's at +1 to hit. So we're looking for 6s. I get a pair of 6s, so we get 2 hits, and now the owlbear has the option of using his action dice, which will effectively end his turn, but he is going to be squatting on our point. Oh, so I forgot a couple of things here. One is that the owlbear has, we'll call it cover 2, but the owlbear is also very large, which means he's got a +1 to get hit. So you know what? Is he 10 inches away from our... Yeah, we're 10 inches. They all cancel out, which means both of those shots are misses. We draw for the next activation, and it's going to be a 50-50 chance, and we're going to get the second owlbear, but he's used his action dice, so he's done for the turn, and that means our wizard gets to go. He's going to slide over a little bit, and he's going to try some boom boom magic. With a maximum movement of 9, he's going to roll an 8. He can move up to 8 inches, and we're going to move him over to here, where he's got line of sight, and he can use his second action to blast the owlbear with some of his magic missile. So the normal missile has a range of 20 inches. We roll a casting die, and he has let's go through all the things here. He's got +1 to resist magic because of his arcane robes. His staff gives him an additional casting die. So he has 2 casting dice that he can use, and he's going to use them both. We're going to hit that guy with everything we've got. So with a 4 and a 5, we're going to miss 2 times, and that will end the turn. We will roll to see if the wandering monster comes on the table. Let's try that again. I get a 7, so no wandering monsters this turn. Chips are in the bag. Shake it up. Not looking. We get a green die. So we're going to try and hit this owlbear with another spell. This time I'm not moving, so I can cast twice. Oh no, you only get 1 spell per turn. So this time we're going to use our first action to cast, and I have 1 die to cast the spell, plus 1 extra casting die, so 2 more shots at that owlbear. And this time I get a 5 and a 2, and we're going to run away because we want to hide behind old Dimly. With a -1, we're only going to be able to move 3 inches. You know, come to think of it, he should only have moved 7, huh? So that 3 inches, we're going to come hide right there. So little popping out, getting into trouble. Second activation is going to be a green die. So we're going to use... Who do we want to use next? Let's go ahead and use 1 action to move our elf. And he has got a total of +1 to his maximum move. So he can move 9 inches. And we'll bring him 7 inches over here. We're going to swing around the side here. And we'll come around 9 inches to there. Yeah, there we go. So right there. Oh, you can't even see him, can you? So by putting him right there, he's now got an open line of shot through that gap, and he can use his second action to try to shoot that owlbear. With a result of a 5, +1 for the size, +1 for being a sharpshooter. That is our first hit. The owlbear now makes a defense roll and cancels that hit on a 7 or better. We'll call that a 6. So this owlbear is now wounded. He is going to only have 2 action dice. When you run out of action dice, that's the end of the game for you. And, you know, it occurs to me that I only did 2 actions with him last turn. Oops, probably should have done the third action. Probably should have moved him up. Wait, so I forgot to take my chip out. I put it back in the cup like an idiot. So the elf is gone and the magic user is gone. So I still have three chips in here, not looking, shaking them up. And wouldn't you know it, the owlbear gets to go. So this time, let's use this owlbear, and he's going to use all 3 attacks on Dimly. Remember, he's got reach, so we just roll looking for 7s. We get a 6, an 8, and a 3. And the owlbear, now why is the owlbear so tough, I hear you wondering? Well, he has, in addition to the 3 attacks, targets have -1 defense die. So we got the 8 for a single hit. Now when he tries to defend, because he's wearing that heavy armor, Dimly is going to be rolling 4 defense dice. Except, because of the rending, we take 1 of those defense dice away. If you're wearing light armor, as is the case for our elf, he doesn't get a defensive roll. He's automatically going to be wounded when this owlbear comes to get in his face. But for now, we'll roll the 3 dice, and we just have the 1 hit. So we get an 8, 9, and a 10, which means we've saved it 3 times. Dimly is going to be just fine. And it's his turn to go. Now, in this case, because we have to charge into combat with a creature that has reach, we have to try to make a disengage roll. It's a little bit wonky, the little if-thens here. So, if you... let's see, charge. To move into engagement range, you must declare a charge. Charging gives +1 melee attack die for that activation. Oops, probably should have given that to Mr. Owlbear on that first turn. He could have rolled 2 dice on attacks instead of just the 1. When charging inside an opponent's reach, you must make a free disengagement roll, which is a... let's see, you spend an action die to make a d10 movement roll. Then make a free evade roll for each opponent. If successful, you may make the movement. If you fail, you can stay where you are. If you choose to make the movement anyway, all opponents whose attack you did not evade will be allowed a full melee attack with a current action dice against you. Oh, well, that's good. So if the owlbear had saved one of his attack dice, in other words, I'm going to roll, and I failed. Now, because I didn't succeed in evading, Mr. Owlbear could use one of his dice. If he hadn't acted already, he could make a free attack before Dimly closes. But because we used all of those dice already, Dimly uses his first action to get into combat, and because he has now successfully charged, he's going to get a bonus die. So normally, oh, you know what? Also, because he's pretty stout, all of his defensive dice are at +1. Well, this guy's going to be really hard to take down, I think. All right, so what does that mean for his attack? Well, he's got a +1 to hit because he is a weapon master. And, I think that's it. So he's got the 1 attack at +1. Oh, +2 because the owlbear is a big, big boy. He's a big lad. It's easier to hit him. So we're at +2, hitting on 5s. We get a 3, nothing doing. That's the end of the turn. The last activation is this owlbear, who will use one of his 2 actions to try to close with our elf. He rolls a 6 for movement, and that's going to put him 1 inch away. He will use his second action to attack, and because he charged, we're going to give him 2 attacks. With a 10 and a 3, he'll hit once. He's got rending, which means our elf is going to lose 1 defensive die. And Grass Toucher only has 1 defensive die to begin with, so he's automatically going to take 1 wound. Mr. Elf now only gets to make 1 action on every turn, at least until he gets healed up, which we can do. So we roll a 7 for the random monster appearance. Doesn't happen. Put our chips back on the board. And I think we're kind of getting the hang of this. Shake them up, pull them out for our turn number 3. Activation. I really want to get over here and heal up Mr. Elf. So I'm actually going to activate my wizard first. He's going to spend 1 action to move. And at -1, he's only going to make it 2 inches. He says, I'm coming, Beanie Boy. And then he's going to roll for his second movement, and he's only going to get to roll 3 inches. And this is not great. He needed to get to within 3 inches of the elf. We'll use our third activation to move just 0 inches. No, you automatically get to move at least 1 inch every turn. So we'll move him to there, and I think we're close enough to the elf. We have a 3-inch range on our heal spell. So kind of slow, kind of gimpy guy. Gonna have to do a little bit better than that. I roll a green, and let's take a... well, what do we want to do here? Let's just go full attack with Dimly. He's going to have 2 attacks. We're going to use them both. Is that really it? Does he have anything giving him 1 extra attack? He's got +2 to hit, so the 8 will be a hit. Mr. Owlbear is going to defend. And with a 1, that's an automatic failure. So he takes a wound. And that means when we roll for, okay, well, which monster do we want to use first? Let's go ahead and do this one first. If I was playing the monsters, what would I do? Since the Dimly is already activated, I would actually attack with this owlbear. I want to try to kill that elf if I can. With a 3 and a 5, that's going to be 2 misses. And the next activation will be, this game moves pretty quick. All right, now the elf can fire with one of his bows. He's going to get a 9, 10, 11. That's going to be a hit. Now, if you roll a 10, that's 2 successes. But because we rolled a 9, I don't think that's the case here at all. Instead, what's going to happen here is we've got the owlbear has got oh, you know what? He's got +1 to get hit, so that's it. So now the owlbear rolls his defensive roll. He gets a 3, and he takes a second wound. And that will end the turn. Put the dice back in the bowl. Roll for Wandering Monsters, get a 3. And we draw another chip without looking. And the owlbears get to go. We're still only 1 inch away here. Let's attack the elf. That's what I would do. A 2 is a miss. And he only has the 1 action, so that's it. Rolling. Let's see if the... what do we want to do? Boy, this is a good question. Since this owlbear is already activated, let's go ahead and shoot with the elf. He's only got the 1 action. He rolls a 10, so this is a double hit. Double whammy. It counts as 2 successes. The owlbear has to save both of those. He gets a 5 and a 6, and that's going to eliminate him from contention. So our first kill of the day. And because that owlbear already acted, we're going to leave the other owlbear's chip in the cup. And with this green activation, now our Dimly can go. We're going to try to knock down the owlbear. So Dimly's already up in his face. We're going to roll 2 dice on the attacks. We're going to get a 7 and an 8 for 2 successful hits. The owlbear is going to roll defensive dice. He's going to save one of them, not the other. So he now only has 1 activation for when he goes. And, whoops, mix those up a little bit better. Not looking. Now our wizard gets to go, and he's going to try to cast his heal spell. With 1 action, he gets 2 chances. The 7 is a success, and so that heals 1 wound, and we're right back into the action. If Dimly had a wound, because it's a halo with a 3-inch range, I could have healed both of those guys. That's why he waited. But, you know, the owlbear gets a turn. You know how it works, right? The owlbear gets a vote. He's only got 1 action left, so we're going to roll. He's going to miss. That's going to end the turn, and we'll roll for Wandering Monsters. Nothing doing. Chips go back in the cup. Mix it up. I'm not looking. Take my word for it. And Dimly, he should be in contact. Dimly gets to act, and he says, I'm using both of my activations. I really want to hit this guy. I get a total of 4 hits. 1 in 100 shot, fellas. So we'll roll our 4 hits, 4 saves. The owlbear will make 1 of those, and that will be the end of Mr. Owlbear. And now we're back into that situation where we have fast travel, and this is where this comes in handy. Because there are no monsters on the table, rather than having to roll and pick chits and roll and pick chits, I can bring my heroes up and say, let's investigate. Each of my heroes is going to get a chance to roll a 0. If you have like a history, lore, skill, you can have a +1 to this roll. But I don't. Before we roll to see if we flip this over, oh, wait a second. You're supposed to flip this over when the bad guys spawn. Oh, man, if this is a 5, I'm going to look pretty dumb and you're all going to laugh at me. This is for the spawning. Okay, good, it's a 3. All right, it was the owlbears. If I'd rolled a 5, which was supposed to be a displacer beast. So the 5 is still out there. That displacer beast still might eat us. But before he does, I'm going to roll 3d10. And if I get a 0, then we've won and we can just walk off because we're not going to trigger any more bad guys. Bear in mind that I could have sent my wizard over to investigate. If I'd rolled a 0, we could run off and just leave the active owlbears on the table because we met the mission parameters. I, of course, want to learn the game. I want to show you guys how combat works. It's pretty smooth once you get the hang of it. Took me some time to wrap my head around the game and to get everything set up. But, man, once you're at the table, this is like butter, baby. So, be that as it may, for whatever reason you do that. This is where we're at. We're rolling and looking for a 0. There it is. Somebody, one of my guys. I probably should have specified who is who. But it didn't matter. They're all just looking for a 0. We have now found the magic, and we can just leave the table. We don't have any active monsters. So, again, you can say, okay, well, I'll roll 2 dice for my dwarf. If I had actions, I could heal if we needed to at this point. So I think this is a really good introductory scenario. Oh, he's going to be able to move. Well, we're minus 2 dice. So 1 inch plus 6, 7 inches. And that. But, what's the point? Look. They get off the table, and that means our next video is going to be about the downtime. I think I would have liked to have done one more fight. Maybe we go ahead and trigger this one over here. We'll move these guys up. I'm going to here we go. See, we're in concealment. We can now set up our little ambush a little bit better. And we're going to bring Dimly up to here, to within 5 inches, and trigger number 4. So we have a couple more owlbears that will appear. If it was the displacer beast, I'm kind of curious here, right? So again, this is his first action, is moving up to within 5 inches. So the displacer beast appears, and Dimly is going to use his second action to just get ready to be charged. The displacer beast is kind of scary because he's got a longer reach, but that might actually be in our best interest here because it occurs to me that with his reach of 2 inches, if he moves up to here, well, first of all, I need to go back to my chits, and it'll be 1 yellow this time because I just have the 1 displacer beast. Dimly has already moved. He's saving 1 die for defense.
So I can pull these out at random, and I can use my first die to blast away. The boss monster has 3 action dice. I have 2 dice, because he doesn't have to move, and I have an extra die for the, his magic buff. He gets an extra casting die. So we get a 1, 2, and a 4. We're going to miss with all 3 of them. The next activation will be Mr. Elf, who will take 2 shots. He's going to be at a total of -1. We need an 8 to hit. Oh, so maybe this wasn't so smart. 4 and a 5. We're shooting into cover 2. We have 1 more creature that gets to move, and so our Displacer Beast will stop right here at a 2-inch range. He's got 2 attacks on Dimly, and he's going to hit with a 7. He hits with 1 of them, and Dimly's saved 1 of his dice. So normally he gets 4 defensive dice. This time he gets 5 chances to block. He's at +1, so he blocks it, and that's the end of the turn. We'll put all of our little chits back in the bowl for turn number 2, and maybe the Manticore appears, but I'm not going to worry about that. In this case, see, here's my chits. We'll put it over here. I'm not looking. And somebody gets to move, and it's going to be our wizard, who's going to cast 3 dice. Man, we're doing pretty good. We get 3 hits altogether. Mr. Displacer Beast, now here's the terrifying thing about the Displacer Beast. He has +2 evade dice. Oh, that's on arrows, though. It's not. Is that on magic? I'm not sure. He's got +2 evade dice. He's got the +1. He's got actually a total of +3 reach. And he's got a 5-inch free move into melee. Oh, man. Well, he doesn't want that, though. I think the 5-inch free move is maybe a little overkill. He also doesn't suffer penalties for moving through rocky areas. That's why I have these rocky areas down here. But he's got to take 3 hits. So what does that mean? Does he have any special abilities on that? He's sure-footed, ignores difficult terrain, max move +2. Oh, he's crazy fast. I guess that reach... Well, the nice thing about the reach is maybe we save 1 activation with this guy, because he hasn't acted yet. I'll show you why. But first he has to save 3. He gets a 7, 9, and a 10, and so he saves all 3 of those hits. Next up is going to be the Displacer Beast. And in this case, the Displacer Beast may want to charge into combat. He's going to use... That gives him 3 attacks. He gets a 7, 8, and a 9. Why does he get 3 attacks? Because he charged. He gets +1. This also means that these guys can't just keep shooting at him at a distance. Right? If they shoot now, there's a 50-50 chance they hit their friend. Dimly has to make 3 saves. We roll the dice. We get a 6, 7, 3, and a 10. He's going to only make 2 of them. So he takes 1 wound. So he did take 3 hits. He saved 2. So now he's down to just 1 wound. So we're getting closer to knocking him out. And I think that's good for now. So maybe we finish this fight. Let's just go ahead and finish the fight. Let's pretend like I didn't score the victory on that first one. The next activation will be Dimly will take his attack. Remember, we got to hit this guy 3 times. With an 8, we'll be successful. The monster has a successful save. And the last activation will be Mr. Elfie Boy, who says, all right, well, I guess I'll get stuck in. I'm not as good at this as my friend. With a 1, it's a miss. And we move on to the next turn. Dropping these back in. Stir them up. Pulling them out. All right, this is getting ugly. Displacer Beast is going to use all 3 attacks on Dimly. Dimly gets 4 chances. He's got to save all 3 of them. He gets a 5 and a 1, and Dimly is now going to be down for the count. He's got his 2 wounds, but I think we leave him there because there's a chance that we can use our magical spell with all 3 dice plus the extra. Oh, we get the spell off. We can heal him back up to 1 wound. Now, bear in mind, that halo, I have an upkeep die, so that halo stays in effect for the next turn. In fact, it keeps staying in effect as long as I need it to. Well, every turn I get to re-roll to see if it's still in effect. So on a 7 or better, it will take effect for the next turn. And then we have 2 more activations. We know whose they are. So he's acted. Now we get to make our attack with Dimly, and we get to make our attack with our elf. Dimly gets a success, and that's going to mean rolling for a save. And now the Displacer Beast takes 1 wound. And I think we all see where this is going. I think the little bite-sized combats are easy to wrap your head around. I think we're going to win, and I think with the heal spell, I think we have a powerful combination here. No TPK. We've succeeded. We killed some of the bad guys. We found what we were looking for. Is there another one in here? We'll roll 3 interacts, and we get another 0. So yeah, maybe this is where it was. Whatever. It's fine.
Now you've seen how the game works. We're going to see how the downtime operations work, but that's a whole separate minigame, very similar to the classic 1995 Necromunda. Tune in next week. I think you're going to enjoy that downtime session and how some of the skills that we bought for our guys will come into play, not on the tabletop, but in a much more RPG light style of play. This game does it all, man. Don't be afraid to give it a shot. It's good stuff. Till next time, I'm praying for you.